Requiem for Innocence interlude. Wait, that was just part 1? Oh, I guess we're in for the long haul then. Recollections of an Outlaw. You're in the mood for something juicy, you say. Hate to break it to you, chum, but I've made it do. So I've made as much as the next bloke, but I'm barely making do as it is. We all are, in case you hadn't noticed. What, you're not hungry? You just want a juicy store to go with your drinks? Why'd you say not to begin with? Give me a sec. I think I got one you like. A few months back, me and a bunch of other blokes went out on a raid. This puny little village. Didn't do much trade, just living off what they could grow. So none figured we'd make out with much. Grab a little grub, plow some the girls. Oh, as in the, okay, plow some of the girls. That was the best anyone was hoping for. Business as usual. We killed the guys, had some fun with the girls, and killed them too. Nothing too interesting, nothing really exciting, up to that point. But that changed when I busted into this one house. There's a man, a woman, a little girl, maybe 5 years old. No siblings, just the girl. Real small family for a village like that. Dad comes to me, protect the girl. Joe comes at me to protect the girl. Then Ma tries to bark me away. No surprise here, I killed them both. A couple of unarmed farmers, easy as snapping a baby's neck. I'd left the kid. Wasn't like she could do nothing, so I didn't have to kill her. But you know how the stupid things get crying like it's the end of the bloody world. So I figure I'll run her through before she starts howling on me, right? But get this. The kid smiled at me and said, Where are you from, mister? Couldn't believe my ears. Girl, your parents were just killed. By me. And I'm coming to kill you next. How the hell are you smiling? How the hell are you are those the first words out of your little mouth, tiny little mouth? Creeped me out, truth be told. So much so I lost all interest in killing her. So I dug around for anything worth taking, and then went on my way. But this damn kid! I tried to leave, and guess what? She effing follows me. Doesn't want revenge or nothing, just smiling like a fool. I'm a patient bloke, but this was beyond the pale. I yelled at the stupid thing, Why the hell you're following me? Piss off! And she gives me this confused look and says, I'm bored. Everyone else stopped moving, so I have nothing else to do. But you're still moving, mister. My damn head was spinning. She was maybe 5, yeah, I can understand her being a little stupid, but she should have known right from wrong enough to know to be scared of me. You'd have to be out of your mind to come trotting after the bastard who just offed your parents. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what her problem was. She wasn't right in the head. Tried to get her to piss off, but she wasn't hearing it. The other guys started talking. Maybe we should just neck her, right? One guy says with a big smile, Let's say we take bets on what it'd take to make the kid cry. So we did just that. We started placing bets. Give her a good yell and she'll cry. Knock her around some, that'll do it. I say, ain't got a tooth or two. Rip off her nails one by one. And finally, plow her till she breaks. Went around and did everything we could to think of our absolute worst. Man, these guys are degenerates. Oh. A lot of people in this game are absolute degenerates. Not like we ever pretend to be good people, but ain't every day you see a bunch of grown men taking turns knocking out of a 5-year-old girl. And hell, that by itself is a good drinking story if I ever heard one. But it keeps going. She never cried, no matter what we did. Not but once. She would groan and twist her face when we hit her, so she did feel pain. But even that was only for a second. After that, she'd be back to smiling like an idiot. To tell the truth, She seriously creeped me the F out. Got to just end it there and forget all about her. But the rest of the guys, they took a liking to her, wanted to bring her back with us. I tried to talk them out of it, but one guy says, "What's the big deal? Ain't like we're adopting her. We'll have some fun, and when we get bored, she's gone." Yeah, it's pretty damn hard to argue against that. Kept fighting it. I'd look like I was trying to be a good guy or something. And so now we've got this kid in the crew. First month or so, she's with us. Everyone's treating her like their plaything. But after a little bit, that starts to change. They start being kind of nice to her. Giving her extra feel, letting her join in on conversations, that sort of thing. She still creeped me out, sure, but the way she never stopped smiling. But she wasn't ugly or nothing. Could be kind of cute, even. Once she started talking with us more, I realized something. None of us knew this damn kid's name. So I asked her, and get this. She says I'm me. Dead effing serious. Now, like, I've been saying the girl, it's always never made much sense. But this was on another level. So I press her. No, what's your name? But she just tilts her head and says the same thing. I'm me. So you say your name's me, I ask. And she gives me this big fat grin and nods her head. Who the hell names a kid me? Her parents, it seems like reasonable enough folks, at least care enough to try and protect her from me. They just run out of ideas trying to come up with a name for her what? As I'm thinking to myself, I see there's something sewn into the bottom of her shirt. Looked like writing, but I can't read for shit, so I call over the only educated guy in the crew and have him look at it. Turns out, it was a name, Jaren. Your name ain't me, it's Jaren, I say. And she lights up like a effing village we just got through with. Really? My name's Jaren? I never knew. I had the biggest sigh of my life, and say to her, "You're the dumbest broad I ever known." About a month after we picked the girl up, we had a bit of trouble. There's this chubby bloke by the name of Marcus, and he starts getting this thing for her, yeah. I had one to get on a guy about what gets his rocks up, but a 5-year-old girl. That just ain't right. Marcus was kind of slow in the head, always at the back of the pack, and mostly useless when we went out on jobs. All the reason we kept him around was because he made a good pack mule. He was annoying as hell besides. Always saluting and saying aye aye, like he thought we were a bunch of pirates or something. And he called everyone boss, because apparently that was the only form of respect he knew. Day after day, oh, aye aye, boss, and I'm on it, boss, and let me massage your back, boss. Was enough to drive a man mad. And because he was the first one to talk to her, Jaren started imitating him. So now we got 2 buffoons running around talking like that. Obnoxious as it was. Though, end of the day, that's all it was. But that changed when Marcus started getting really fond of the girl. Every little thing we did, he'd go around telling us to be nice to her. Yeah, but as far as we saw it, compared to when we first took her in, we were treating her pretty damn well. Of course, that's all relative. Proper slave probably still got less hell from their masters than we gave this gal. But remember, we only brought her along so we could have fun. Never intended to make her part of the crew. But Marcus wasn't having any of it. Some of which actually snapped at us. "You'll pay if you don't stop right now, boss." Idiot wanted to fight, so we gave him a fight. The whole lot of us beat the ever-loving hell out of him. Stomped his face in so bad you couldn't even recognize the poor bastard anymore. But that wasn't enough for him. His face a big bloody mess, Marcus said. "I won't let you lay another finger on Jaren, boss." Tell you the truth, I didn't think he had the sack. Then Jaren comes trotting in. Seems she heard the ruckus and wanted to see what was up. Mark's eyes went wide, and he yelled, "Stay back!" But the girl just stood there, same old stupid smile on her face. Seeing her come in, One of the other guys smirks, bumps his arse down on Marcus' back, and holds a knife up against his neck and says, "Hey, Jared, you like Marcus?" And with a big grin, she answers, "Aye, boss. Aye, boss." Though the swollen, bruised up mess his face was, you could just barely make out Marcus smile. Next, the guy on his back says, "That would make you sad if we roughed him up a bit more?" "What do you mean, rough him up?" "Cut off his fingers, scoop out his eyes, have a little fun." "Fun is fun. Why would that make me sad?" "Do you hear that? I'm making this up." The girl's still standing there, smiling at Marcus. He goes pale as a ghost. And he did it. He cut off his fingers. Jared still smiled. He gouged out his eyes, still smiling, and finally slit Marcus' throat. Even as the blood sprayed right into her face, she never once stopped smiling. Just before he kicked off, Marcus looked like he was thrown into the deepest, darkest pit of despair. I've seen the hope drained from God knows how many men's eyes, but that was on a whole other level. And as you can imagine, I wasn't the only one. Jen creeped out anymore. Everyone felt the same way. She was so messed up, we all thought we might start turning into her if we kept her around any longer. So next up religion, we sell Jared off. And we all lived happily ever after, minus one twisted little girl. What do you think? Juicy enough for you? Feel sick? Sorry about that, Jim. I thought you had a strong stomach. I do wonder what Jaren's up to these days. She still smiling like an idiot, or... Recollections of a Vassal's Wife. Good day to you, too, sir. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Yes, that's correct. This is where our slaves were when they were stolen, as I described when I reported it. What? The number of stolen slaves I gave you doesn't match the number you heard from other sources? Ah. No, I had no intention of deceiving you. I simply assumed it wouldn't be a problem because I wasn't claiming we lost more than we did. Yes, I understand. I beg your pardon. I should have reported the number correctly. I will do so in the future, so please, if you would, look the other way just this once. Why did I report fewer slaves were stolen? I imagine you would find that curious, yes. Why would anyone want less of their lost manpower returned to them, indeed? It's quite simple. I did not think it would be any great loss if she were not to come back. Oh no, she was a fine worker. And she didn't cause any trouble either. You want to know about the girl? I doubt it will be any help to your investigation, but I don't mind telling you. I warn you, it's not a terribly pleasant story, though. Very well, as you wish, sir. We purchased her when she was about 5 years old, so she's been with us for quite some time. 8, maybe 9 years now? When we bought her, she was still too young to put to work. She was in good health, though, and always had the sweetest smile on her face, so I had little doubt she would do as she was told. Slaves tend to be so gloomy and depressing, you know. Not that I don't understand, but unlike many, we try not to mistreat our slaves. As long as they do their work, they have nothing to worry about. The best slaves, I think, are the ones who aren't so dreary as to be infectious and make us feel guilty. The girl's name was Jaren, and, well, she talked rather funny. She was as bright and cheerful as I had hoped. And she was always smiling from ear to ear. For a while, it felt like we had a brand new member of our family. I was so taken with her, I almost considered adopting her instead of keeping her as a slave. And how did I go from wanting to take her in to not caring if she didn't come back? It's rather difficult to explain, to tell you the truth. Yeah, that's right. She never caused any trouble. She never stole anything, and she never refused to work. She never cried, and she never got upset. No matter what happened, she always did her work with a smile on her face. That sounds like the ideal slave. Yes, you would think so. And I have no complaints regarding her work. Neither did my husband, nor our servants. Well, apparently this is a female. Probably should have figured that out from the name of it, but we're in too deep at this point. And I like this voice better than a myriad of female voices. Anyways, I imagine I'm not the only one who would be happy to never see her again. I started thinking the girl peculiar about 2 years after we purchased her. Right around that time, one of our other slaves attempted to run away. Yes, that's right, as I said, we have never once mistreated our slaves. Other slave owners could learn a thing or two from us, I say. We tell all our slaves, when we buy them, that they will be set free as soon as they've worked enough to pay back what we paid for them. So he had only 10 years, and then he would have been free. But he chose to spit in the face of our generosity, and, my apologies, I've gotten off track, haven't I? The slave who ran was captured soon after, but trying to flee is one of the greatest transgressions a slave can commit against his master. As such, it was, as I'm sure you understand, necessary to punish him. But I assure you, we never mistreat— Yes, I'm sorry, I'll continue. So as I said, he had to be punished. My husband took a length of rope and used it as a whip, I think it's called. He had all the slaves watch as he lashed the one that had tried to run. It was for their own sake. The other slaves needed to see what would happen if they attempted to flee. The lashing continued for a full day. All the slaves present reacted differently. Some averted their eyes, some cried out. Some looked on trembling, but it was clear they were afraid, which meant the punishment had served its purpose. For everyone except Jaren, that is. Yes, that's correct. She simply smiled. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But every time I looked at her, I saw the same thing. As the slave being lashed screamed out in pain, Jaren didn't even flinch. She stood there smiling. Just looking at her gave me the chills. My husband thought it curious as well, but he wasn't near as put off as me. She was 7 at the time and a hard worker, and he said there was no issue as long as she didn't cause any trouble. But that completely misses the point, you know? She gave me the creeps. I wasn't comfortable with her around. But of course my husband has the final say. I couldn't defy him. So I did my best to forget it that day. I couldn't get the girl out of my mind, though, no matter how hard I tried. My gaze was drawn to Jaren, and I noticed quite a bit as I observed her more carefully. Say one of the slaves hurts himself while working. You might expect another slave to ask if he's alright. To help patch up the wound. To volunteer to take on his responsibilities for the day. To show concern and compassion. But Jaren, she would just smile and go her way with not a word. She was hardly perfect either, as anyone know, and she would make mistakes occasionally. Everyone slips up, and we try not to make a huge fuss about it, because we sincerely value our slaves and the work they— My apologies. In any case, we can't simply brush such mistakes off, so we make sure to admonish them whenever something happens to ensure things run smoothly. But even as I scold her, Jaren's still smiling. As I'm sure you can imagine, it's hard not to feel as though you're being disrespected. So once I lost my temper and smacked her. It was only the once, though, I swear. I'm not a violent woman. I hate raising my hand to anyone. I was sure that if nothing else would make her cry. But still she smiled with half her face red and swollen. I was so perplexed I came straight out and asked her, "Why do you not cry? I just hit you. How can you keep smiling?" And she said, "Why would I cry? I'm not sad about anything." Pressing the issue further, I discovered she had evidently never felt bad for anyone in her life, including herself. Can you imagine? How terrible is that? It's not right. So I decided I needed to teach her how she was supposed to act. I taught her that when she saw someone get hurt, she needed to show sympathy. That when she was being reprimanded, she needed to show remorse and a desire to improve. Jaren listened carefully to every word I said, and before long she started putting my teachings into practice. At first I was relieved. Jaren was finally a regular girl. She showed concern, compassion, regrets. But it was all an act. She acted sad when someone got hurt, and then she turned around and was smiling again. It never lasted more than a few moments. Emotions were but a flash there, then gone before you realized. It wasn't normal. It wasn't human. She didn't genuinely feel sympathy. Beyond the surface, she was no different than the girl who smiled as a fellow slave was being whipped before her eyes. Jaren had learned nothing. Unable to bear it anymore, I went to my husband again. I told him she wasn't normal. There was something wrong with her. I implored him to do something, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. She was a good worker, he said. We couldn't ask for better slaves, he said. Oh, but he couldn't have been any more wrong. He wasn't the one who had to look after her. He had no idea what she was like, how unsettling it was merely being in her presence, how deeply upsetting it was. My apologies, I'm fine now. As you can imagine, I'm not particularly fond of Jaren, so it was a weight off my shoulders when I heard she was one of the stolen slaves. Why are you giving me that look? You think I'm the one who has the problem? You think there's nothing wrong with her, just like my husband? One look at her smile and you'd know I'm telling the truth. That she's not simply a little eccentric, that there's more to it than that. I can't take it anymore. Is there no one who will understand me? Recollections of a prostitute. Kick back for a bit, why don't you? I'm in the mood to talk. Nah, I'm not gonna charge extra. I don't bill by the hour. Oh, you never thought of me as a talkative girl? I guess that just goes to show how much I've taken to you. No, I'm not trying to butter you up, I swear. I've been thinking a lot these days about the place I last worked at, and it's really been getting me down. I can't think of anyone I want to with me at times like this more than you. Did something happen there? I've been waiting for that question. It's a bit of a long story, I hope you don't mind. There's a city about 10 days by carriage from here. You know, the one, right, at Lord Brenier's doorstep. The place I used to work there, and every so often the Lord would summon a few of the prettiest girls to come to his manor. I'm hardly the best looking girl around, even out here, so I was never one of the chosen. But honestly, I'm lucky for it. It's not the kind of thing you want to go mentioning in public, but the Lord has some, unsavory hobbies. Every girl who ever came back said, there's no amount of money you can pay me to do that again. Word is, the Lord has a taste for torturing and killing his slaves. Not just if you screw up either. If he's in the mood and he so much as sees you, you could be dead. He's got a dungeon under his manor too, they say, and you can hear wailing coming from down there at all times of the day. The Lord enjoys all different kinds of torture. Flaying, dismemberment, boiling, the water cure. I'm sure he uses others, but I've only heard bits and pieces secondhand. He only ever killed the slaves, though. The girls all came back in one piece. On the outside, at least. Being forced to watch people get brutally murdered did a real number on most of them. Some were so broken by the experience they couldn't work anymore. So the Lord apparently, he hosts banquets at his manor every so often. But he's the kicker. Here's the kicker. He only invites nobles that are into the same sort of thing. He's not the only one. We're being governed by God knows how many twisted freaks. I don't even want to think about it. Anyways, something like 2 years ago, I think it was. A couple girls came back, looking a good 20 years older, and they told us about one of these banquets. Most of the time, it's just him and his noble friends torturing slaves, but this one was different. There's a girl, maybe 10 years old, chained up naked on the makeshift altar. But here's where it gets crazy. The girl, who they called a saint, was covered in scars head to toe. They cut her up and filled their cups with her fresh blood. But she didn't cry, she didn't even flinch. She just sat there quietly. And when she did speak, it was to condemn them as blasphemers and sinners. Can you imagine? Chained up like that, and she's scolding her captors, telling them God will punish them for their actions? I wouldn't have the guts. Maybe she was raised at a church or something? But I'm guessing that's got something to do with why they called her a saint. Oh yeah, the slave revolt was right around that time too. You hear about that? Just rumors. Well, they're not just rumors, it really happened. Because of the revolt, the girls who'd been there made it out in mostly decent shape. And for a while afterwards, the Lord didn't send for anyone. I'm guessing he was too preoccupied patching up the holes in his manor and finances to spend much time fooling around. Sort of changing topics for a sec, but about the same time this dark-skinned girl, the kind you don't see too often around these parts, started working here. Her name was Jaren. She was pretty, always had the widest smile on her face, and really friendly. Seemed like the kind of girl who'd draw in a lot of business. And I was right. Within a couple weeks, she had already picked up a few regulars, and our manager was going on about how happy he was with his purchase. About a month in, though, we started getting complaints from one of her customers. He said she was being condescending with him. Brought it up with Jaren, but she said she had no idea what he was talking about, so I assumed the customer was just imagining it, or full of it. You get guys like that all the time in this business. No, don't worry. You're not one of them. But the complaints kept coming in, which made me think maybe there was something going on. So I decided to talk things out with the guys, making the complaints at this time, get a better picture of what the problem was. Most of them were pretty useless and vague, but the common issue seemed to be that her behavior didn't make sense. One guy came in after bungling a huge trade deal, hoping to find some comfort, and he spilled his guts to Jaren, but instead of trying to console him, she laughed. You can see why he wouldn't be thrilled about that. When I asked Jaren about it, she gave me a confused look and said, "I thought he was telling a funny joke." There was no malice, nothing. She genuinely didn't understand how the customers wanted her to act. Can't run a business like this without a solid customer base, so making sure everyone leaves happy is a crucial operation. Which is probably not something I should be talking about with the customer, but, well, you're special, so cut me some slack, okay? Anyway, something had to be done about Jaren. We couldn't risk more dissatisfied customers, so I figured the best thing to do was give her some training. Here's how you should react if a client brings up such and such, and here's what you should say if they're looking depressed or upset or whatever. How and when to react, to be reactive, and how and when to be proactive. Jaren was a quick study, so it wasn't long before she was putting my lessons to work. I would have been happy with just reducing the number of complaints to a more normal level, but Jaren improved so dramatically we heard nothing but praise from then on. Say a patron was looking a little blue, she'd give them a big pouty face and say, "What's the matter? You can tell me anything." "Oh, no, that's terrible. I feel awful for you. Is there anything I can do to help? Anything at all?" Just this constant stream of comfort, almost to the point of being excessive. She had gone from bright and energetic to sweet and sympathetic as well. On the surface, anyway. Every condolence she offered was completely fake. Condolence. She was acting, and I knew it, because I was the one who had taught her how. There's nothing wrong with that, though. We're not in the business of genuine human interaction, after all. Thinking back on it now though, I probably should have taught her what the real thing felt like, rather than just how to fake it. About a year later, the Lord started sending for girls again. We all knew he was a madman, that was common knowledge. But he paid well, and everyone always came back alive, so we reluctantly complied. But we were wrong. He did kill the girls this time. One came back alive, but she was missing an eye and half an arm. She was in no condition to go back to work. Even just going about her daily life would be difficult. We were aghast, but things only got worse from there. The next time the Lord sent for us, we panicked. For one, no amount of money was worth what waited at the Lord's manor, and two, it was impossible to run a business if your employees kept getting killed. So we attempted to turn him away, but his messenger simply said, "The Lord will not take no for an answer." We either complied, or were all executed for treason. What little hope we had left crumbled. We were screwed either way, so we fought amongst ourselves like a pack of wild animals. "I'm too ugly, you go. I have more regulars, you go. No one likes you anyway." Pure chaos. I was of course part of the brawl. And here's where she comes in. Jaren. Everyone's in a big mob, clawing each other's faces off, and she just tilts her head and asks, "Why are you so afraid of the Lord?" Seeing that stupid, clueless look on her face, just about everyone in the room burst a vessel. "Alright, we'll send her," we said, and it was decided. Jaren smiled, not bothered in the slightest, gave us a cheery "see you later," and went off to the Lord's Manor. To no one's surprise, she never came back. We figured she had been killed. A week or so later, the messenger showed up again asking for more girls. By this point, the manager was furious. He'd managed to speak with the Lord in person, saying if something wasn't done, the whole brothel would collapse, and he'd put his life on the line to prevent that. Seeing him so resolute, I felt a newfound respect for him. I also thought he was a complete idiot, but I still respected him. After all, there was no way the Lord would be open to negotiation. That was obvious from everything he'd done. The manager and a few assistants set off for the Lord's Manor. About 2 weeks later, he returned. Or his head did. His assistants managed to avoid death, so they were able to tell us what had happened. No one was exactly thrilled to hear more twisted tales about the Lord, but we listened anyway, and no one could have imagined what they told us. Jaren was there, with the Lord alive and well. Not only had she not been killed, he had apparently taken quite a liking to her. The manager was surprised to see her too, but he figured it was as good a chance as he would ever get. If Jaren would speak up in his favor, the Lord might actually listen to her. So, emboldened, the manager pleaded with the Lord, begging him not to harm the girls, that we wouldn't be able to send anyone else otherwise. And for attempting to oppose him, the Lord ordered the manager to be executed. The manager, however, entreated Jaren for help. If you have a heart, Jaren, please tell the Lord not to take my life. I have people who need me." Without hesitation, Jaren nodded, saying, "You think you could maybe let him live?" That seems, but I don't know, disrespectful for a whore to speak to the Lord like that, but he didn't get upset with her or anything. He really had taken a liking to her, apparently. His Lord nodded and said, "I'll offer you a choice then. Jaren, you may have whichever one of the following you prefer. Either I spare this man's life, or you can have my full attention for the rest of the day." The manager and his assistants were all baffled. How was that even a decision? How was a man's life, a man who had employed her for more than a year, no less, comparable to a little attention? But they were even more baffled by Jaren's reaction. She thought about it for a second, and then, blushing, she said, I want your attention." Everyone's jaws dropped. The manager about burst into tears. He begged her to reconsider, to have pity. He asked what he had ever done to wrong her. "He never did me wrong," she said. "Then why would you have him spare me?" I just want his attention more." "And you're willing to let me die for that?" "What's so scary about dying anyway?" Not only did she not comprehend sorrow, she seemed to be devoid of anything resembling fear as well, which explained why she had so much trouble sympathizing with people's suffering, why she was always smiling no matter how bad things got. Without her manager, the brothel went to hell. His son took over, but he didn't give a damn about any of the girls. All he cared about was if he had enough booze to keep himself perpetually smashed. So, figuring I had a better chance elsewhere, I left everything behind and ran, leaving my future in fate's hands. Fate was kind to me, and I managed to make it here. They come to me in my dreams sometimes, though. I still see the faces of those poor girls we sent off to the gallows.